Dear viewer, welcome back to my channel. Space is silent, endless, and mysterious. But sometimes, astronauts witness things so terrifying that even they are left speechless. From unexplained sightings to chilling last words, these are the most horrifying things ever said by astronauts. Houston, we have a problem. These famous words sent chills down mission control. When Apollo 13 suffered a catastrophic oxygen tank explosion, the crew was stranded, facing the terrifying possibility of never returning to Earth. Every second mattered as NASA scrambled to save their lives.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
Can say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
It was plagued by bad omens and bad luck from the very beginning.
Looks good here, flight. Good agreement.
Years before the flight, when the spacecraft was being built, a damaged liquid oxygen tank was installed in the spacecraft. The tank had been dropped on the factory floor. A little piece of plumbing had prevented the normal procedure for removing oxygen after a routine test prior to the flight. And then on the day before the flight, filled up the tank again with liquid oxygen, and it was a bomb waiting to go off.
This is the crew of Apollo 13. Wish everybody there a nice evening, and we're just about to close out our inspection of Aquarius and get back to a pleasant evening at Odyssey. Good night.
Actually, it was the end of the workday. We were fixing to go to bed after we did a few things to clean up, and the next morning go into lunar orbit and get ready to land. And then there was a large bang.
When the explosion first occurred, we didn't know what happened.
And that just rang through the metallic structure.
Houston, we've had a problem.
I was in the lunar module, and then I went down into the command module.
We may have had an instrumentation problem, flight. Roger.
And we had a pretty large bang associated with the caution and warning there.
In 2005, astronaut Leroy Chiao reported seeing a strange set of lights moving in formation outside the International Space Station. No official explanation was given. Was it space debris or something else watching from the void?
You saw these things when you were flying?
Yeah, so, just to give you one example, on my second mission, we got a call from the Cape and said, hey, why don't you look over towards Florida? You might be able to see this rocket launch. And so we looked and we couldn't see the rocket launch, but then suddenly the whole horizon just lit up with all the colors of the rainbow. And what had happened, we said, wow, what is that? But if we hadn't been warned, we would have thought that was really something strange. But what it turned out to be is when the spent upper stage of the rocket opened up its valves to vent the remaining propellant into space, they all crystallized and turned into little prisms and just lit up the sky with colors of the rainbow. So that's just an example of things that if you didn't know what it was, it could really cause you to keep speculating.
In 2003, Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei heard mysterious knocks on a spacecraft, like someone was knocking from the outside. In the vacuum of space, where sound shouldn't travel, what could have made that noise?
I remember 13 years ago, I was still a student watching you on TV, and we were deeply concerned about your personal safety, your personal health, as well as the success of your mission. And now, 13 years later, since two of your younger colleagues will soon be sent to space. Do you think they are facing a bigger challenge or a smaller challenge compared to a decade ago?
当然，像我刚才跟您介绍的，因为任务发生了很大的不同，那这样呢，对我们的航天员要求也是。
As I said, we have many new tasks this time, so there are also tougher requirements for our astronauts. For example, they will stay in space for a significantly longer time, which will demand a stronger ability to adapt to the environment and handle emergencies should they happen.
实验能力以及他处置这个各种情况的能力就要求更高。
They will also carry out a lot more complicated experiments, for which they have gone through extensive training. That's why when we're selecting the astronauts, we have raised the standards in their personal ability and scientific knowledge. These are all new requirements, which we did not stress as much when I was selected, because at the time we focused more on the technological breakthrough than the astronauts' ability.
一项项突破技术的时候发生很大的变化。
Cosmonauts aboard Soviet missions reported hearing strange transmissions, what sounded like a woman's desperate cries for help. Some believe it was the last moments of a failed mission, a cosmonaut lost in space, forever drifting in the darkness.
Lost Soviet cosmonauts. On November 28, 1960, Achille and Giovanni intercepted a strange Soviet transmission. The brothers were puzzled at first, as there had not been a public launch announcement. Instead of random beeping, as they usually heard from the other satellites, they caught an SOS call in Morse code. 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 dots were transmitted from a spacecraft seemingly moving away from Earth. By this point in time, the Soviet Union had already launched a dog into space. Still, no nation had sent a human beyond the Earth's stratosphere. According to Giovanni's interview with Vice, both brothers were confused. Quote, "Maybe the Soviets had managed to launch a cosmonaut into orbit, but they'd lost them into space. We had no proof, but it was the only theory that seemed to fit. Why would an unmanned craft transmit a distress signal?" 3 days after the SOS call, Russia admitted that a recent launch had failed, but did not mention that a human had been aboard the capsule. This was only the first in a series of mysterious mayday calls the brothers intercepted over the years, a theory that became known as the lost Soviet cosmonauts. In February 1981, Torrebet again intercepted a strange wordless signal. The noises resembled the racing beat of an overexerted heart and labored breathing sounds. The siblings took the recording to famed heart surgeon Dr. A. Dorliati, whose verdict was that the noises belonged to a dying man. 3 months later, the brothers intercepted another unsettling call, in which the voices of 2 men and 1 woman could be heard desperately screaming, quote, "Conditions growing worse. Why don't you answer? We are going slower. The world will never know about us." The transmission then ended abruptly. Alaskan and Swedish radio interceptors also picked up this distress signal, but neither knew their real purpose. During the time of these recordings, the Soviet Union announced their first successful human-crewed mission, in which Yuri Gagarin orbited the Earth. And on June 14, 1963, they recorded a female voice that allegedly belonged to cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova. The brothers claimed it was recorded 2 days before the official launch date provided by the Soviets. The Jurgika Cordelia siblings were convinced that these calls pointed to the Soviets launching people into space, losing them to accidents, and covering it up.
During the Apollo missions, astronauts reported hearing eerie music on the far side of the moon. Some claim they saw strange shadows moving just beyond their vision. NASA dismissed it as radio interference. But what if something was really out there?
Apollo 10, 2 minutes to LOS.
Apollo 10 loses contact with mission control and encounters an unidentified radio signal.
I don't know what the hell that was. It's really weird.
There was something there.
When the mission returns to Earth, all records of the incident are classified.
The tapes reveal conversations between the astronauts about a phenomenon that they did not report to mission control.
What the hell happened? Dave, I don't know.
Space is full of wonders, but also full of mysteries. Some things we may never understand. But one thing is certain: when astronauts, trained professionals, report terrifying encounters, we should listen. What do you think? Are these just strange coincidences? or is something out there? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more mind-blowing space mysteries.